To avoid clickbaiting you, I'm putting this bit at the start to tell you everything in summary. For those of you who just want the rundown, here's what's up. Heads up, because this is the best game that I'm going to tell you to hold off on buying for the moment. Cult of the Lamb released on August 11th to the public, and the build that was pushed to Steam had some issues. While I didn't personally run into this bug, there was a bug that a lot of people encountered that basically locked them out of upgrading the main part of their settlement in the game. This kind of capped their progression and held them off from the later portions of the game. In response to this, Massive Monsters, the developers of the game, pushed out a patch directly addressing this bug. The problem is it was a little bit rushed, and it did a lot more than fix that one bug. The patch that was pushed the night of August 11th did in fact fix the progression lock bug. However, it also added about 100 different ways to soft lock your game. Now, I played the release version, and I was lucky to not have hit any of these issues during my 12-hour release stream. So I got almost to the very last boss before I got off and updated it, which in turn would break a lot of the stuff in my save file. To be very specific, at the time of recording, there is over 200 known bugs and about 100 ways to soft lock your game recorded by the fans in the Cult of the Lamb Discord. A good portion of these were still present in the game before the patch was pushed. However, after the patch was pushed, it seemed to open up a lot more. I personally soft locked myself out of multiple fights, including the 4th boss and the final phase of the final boss 3 separate times, meaning I had to go through the entirety of the final boss 3 separate times before it let me beat him. There are also just a lot of general scripting issues, it seems. Some of the quests that your followers can give you are impossible to complete. I personally got one where I had to marry someone that I was already married to. I also got a quest where I had to resurrect someone that wasn't yet dead. The game also has a massive memory leak problem. The longer you play, the more the performance suffers, and while restarting every 15 minutes can kind of patch up this issue, that's no way to enjoy a game. This is all extremely disappointing because when the game does work, it is damn good. It's not perfect, and there are some valid criticisms of the gameplay and some of the systems in the game, but this launch snafu has significantly marred what very well could have been one of the best things to come out this year. Time will tell what public opinion of Massive Monster and Devolver Digital will be, and I have a few theories as to why this whole thing happened. The final update before I get into the video proper is that Massive Monster, as of the time of recording, which is August 14th, they have released a statement in their Discord saying that they're going to be pushing a patch later this week, which I actually think is a good idea. The game is still very buggy. There is almost a constant stream of people in their Discord asking about a bunch of different things that are still broken. There are people who are losing their save files. There are people whose quests are breaking, and just generally a bunch of other stuff is going on with this game that is just not acceptable for a launch. Massive Monster has pushed one other patch since the initial patch that seemed to break everything else, and the patch notes specifically said they were addressing Twitch integration and a language fix. Now, to their credit, they are currently very actively working to fix things, and they are receiving feedback from their Discord and their bug report system as well. I don't expect the game to be fixed for quite some time. As much as it pains me to say this because I did have so much fun with the game is not currently in a playable state for many people, and I would hold off on purchasing it until everything is fixed. Wishlist it and pick it up in a month or two after it's more stable. I think playing it in its current state will significantly hinder your enjoyment, and I think that when this game is fully functional, it is easily at least a 4 out of 5. I feel kinda obligated to make a video on this, considering just how much I've hyped this game up. I'm part of the problem here. As I'll mention later in this video, I think that a really big part of the problem with this release is that it was a really small dev team that had a marketing campaign and so much hype around this release that they were not prepared to handle. I played my final hours in Cult of the Lamb offline and I wasn't recording. I just wanted to enjoy the game that I'd waited a whole year for. So there isn't any footage of this, and what you're seeing scattered throughout this video is going to just be gameplay from the stream. There was one point where on the 4th boss of the game, I got him down to half HP, and then he rose up into the ceiling as part of his boss cycle. The problem is he never came back down. I waited for 3 minutes and could not get him, no matter what I did, to come down from the ceiling so I could continue the fight. I had to scrap that run, restart the game, and then run it back. And then eventually, after about 15 seconds, the second time that I went through the boss phase, he did come down, but there was still a really weird section where I was just sitting there standing still waiting for him. I had to scrap 4 separate runs in the spider's den because these enemies that are up in cobwebs that'll drop down as an extra phase in the room, they would just not spawn sometimes, meaning that the room would lock me in because there are still enemies and I can't get them down so I can kill them. Also, as of recording, there is still a bug that is preventing me and anyone else from 100%ing the game. I did all of the hitless boss runs, I collected all of the other things, I got all the gold, did all the side quests, and I even got all of the cosmetic decorations, which is not required for 100%. Even with all of the issues, I was still having a great time. But the last thing that I needed was a fucking snail. In order to get the snail follower skin, which is needed for the all follower skins achievement, you have to kill 5 snails and collect the snail shells from them, and then force feed them to some statues that you find at some of the other areas around the hub. Problem is, if you progress past the second area at all, the snails just don't spawn anymore. And the other issue, which is where I ended up hopping into the Discord and finding out that there is a litany of issues with this game, is that the snails do not drop snail shells at all. There is a 0% drop rate for snail shells, even if you do get them to spawn. I wish I had just looked in their Discord earlier, because I ended up spending about an hour and a half starting a new save file and going all the way back to the second area just to see what's going on with the snails. Never tell me I don't do my research. Now, before we get into this next part, I want you to keep 2 things in mind. First, the developer team behind this game is tiny. Seriously, the credits when you beat the game take like half a second to go by. That alone means they are probably having a really difficult time dealing with the backlash that this game is getting. I've always tried to keep in mind expectations when it comes to games, and for something getting as much press and hype as this to have a rather large influx of bugs and angry gamers, it's not going to be a good time for them. I've been a member of their Discord for 2 years, meaning that I was able to scroll back and see the message history, and holy shit. Some of the hatred spewed at the devs was just absolutely uncalled for. This is the second time now that I have been first-hand witness to what developers have to deal with when things do not work properly. The first instance of this was the synced playtest, which I also made a video on if you're interested. Now, I want to use this for a second to talk about something I think we all as consumers need to be a bit more aware of. As frustrating as it is when something releases and does not work properly, especially considering the amount of mass marketing that Devolver did to pump up this release, we always have to be wary when listening to anybody that is whining about this stuff. As I said before, this is just generally a buggy game. I soft-locked myself out about 10 times. However, in the crowd of people with actual complaints and issues, there are also people like the guy with the Andrew Tate profile picture who posted a picture of a normal room in the game with the title, "Where the fuck is the fucking door, you stupid fucking developers? How do I get out?" Now, in the picture that they posted, they were standing in front of the door. There was no soft lock. They were just being stupid. Now, the second thing that I want us to keep in mind here is that we should never discourage, even when it fails, people that are trying something different. I can't even tell you how many games at this point I've gone to review or even just passed on entirely because they are just a regurgitation of things that we've seen before. I know a lot of people really love Horizon Forbidden West, and for what it's worth, there are some original concepts in there, absolutely. But at the same time, a lot of the gameplay and design choices that they made with that game are very safe and measured. That's what we're experiencing almost around the board, is a lot of releases where people aren't really trying something new. One of the things that I always try to drive home, and I try to put these in my reviews as well, because I want developers to know, don't be scared of trying new things. I'm, trust me, frustrated as hell by all of this that's going on with the release and just a game not being really playable for people on launch. But when this game is working, it's fantastic, and it's a perfect blend of something we haven't really seen before. What I'm trying to say here is, while it's okay to be angry, don't be the guy that's just screaming in their face for no reason. Even if they didn't nail the technical end of this game, on art style and music and just general design choice alone, this is amazing. That being said, I wouldn't be making this video if there weren't problems. So what the hell happened? For a long time now, I have sung the praises of Devolver Digital. And even after this video, I will still keep a keen eye on what they're putting out because they do publish good games. The reason I'm mentioning this is because Devolver has shown a bit of a trend recently where they like to make it all about them. Their last showcase was about 20 minutes of skits about Devolver in general, and then a couple minutes of actual gameplay footage and trailers. I love what Devolver publishes, but it's starting to get a bit big for its britches. The running theories I have are threefold. The first, and I think most plausible, is that Massive Monster really did think that the game was fine. I cannot stress this enough. There is barely double digits people working on this game. They have a minuscule development team, and I assume their QA department isn't exactly the biggest. Now, especially with the Animal Crossing-esque portion of this game, games like that are very, very hard to playtest because you can do so many different things in them, and it is very, very rare that you find a game like that that releases with no issues whatsoever. Now, this is obviously a million times worse than just a couple bugs here and there, but I think it's worth mentioning that the QA department probably isn't the biggest, and it is entirely possible, and again, I think plausible, that Massive Monster did not think that their game was actually as buggy as it is. Now, theory 2. It is entirely possible that Devolver signed up to publish this game and then forced Massive Monster to push it out on release day, even if it wasn't ready. I don't know if I buy into this entirely because Devolver has had a pretty consistent track record of putting out things that are good on release. However, as we see time and time again, as companies get bigger and bigger and bigger, a lot of times they forget the founding principles that got them big in the first place. We might be seeing the end of Devolver as we know them. It's possible that they were hoping that enough people got their way through the game and left positive reviews that it wouldn't even seem like a big deal. Although, when you post the soundtrack in the Discord, which, by the way, go check it out on Spotify. This is probably the best game soundtrack to come out in years. But when you post the soundtrack in Discord, and the response to that almost immediately is this. I think people noticed the bugs. Now, with the sheer amount of issues that popped up only after they pushed that first patch, I'm really inclined to believe the first theory here, which is that this is just a really, really large scale release that Massive Monster was not ready for in any way, shape, or form. Now, as I wind this down, I want to remind everyone of something. Just because this game failed, it is not reason to stop believing that good games are coming out every day. I see some people all over the internet just acting like doomers all the time. There's no good movies, no good books, no good shows, no good games. Wah, 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 the world is ending. There is a ton of good stuff out there, and sometimes you just gotta look a little bit to find it. Now, I say this believing that when Cult of the Lamb is fully functional, it is one of the best things to come out this year. It's not the best right now, but when it's at 100%, this is one of the most creative and artistically interesting games to come out in a while. At the end of the day, I am very disappointed with the state of this launch, but I still had a really good time with this game. I have got a comment section if you have got opinions. Let me know how the launch went for you. I appreciate you guys watching. Please don't forget to subscribe for more videos that are hopefully a lot more positive than this one. I do reviews of indie games and AAA all the time. Also, please go follow me on Twitch. We have a lot of fun there doing indie games, all kinds of challenges, and just generally watching me make an ass of myself on the internet. That being said, I am not absolutely sure, and this was not a real review.